Land and market linkage, the Ogun Anchor Borrowers program sponsored by the Central Bank of Nigeria is more than ready to kickstart. Flagging off the 2020 planting season was the Governor of Ogun State, Prince Dapo Abiodun, who also presented checks to some beneficiaries. Commissioner for Agriculture in the state, Dr. Adeola Odedina, described the CBN Anchor Borrowers initiative as an exemplary initiative which will motivate youths and farmers in the state to adopt mechanized farming. Dr. Odedina says further that the 680 million naira disbursed by CBN to 3,500 farmers in the state are mainly for cassava farmers.
This is just cassava. So this is for cassava crop. We have in piggery, aquaculture, maize, etc. So what we are doing is that we are creating opportunity for the youth so that we link them to the industrial process. And what they need to do in our state is that they just need to indicate interest and register. And then we will link them to land, cleared land. We also give them enough planting material for 1 hectare, enough seed, and enough fertilizer. We also link them to off-taker. So it's a win-win situation.
Permanent Secretary in the Ministry, Dr. Dotun Shorunke, also highlights some procedures of payment and training of farmers.
The average yield of cassava farmers is put at 18,000 to 20,000. It is our desire that this should be increased to meet about 40 tons per hectare of land. And that's a lot. That means the profits will sort of double. And that is our target. That is what we plan to achieve. That is the essence of the training.
Some of the beneficiaries share their plans on the funds, skills, and land acquired.
We want to make Ogun State as a food basket of the nation. As much as possible, we are representatives of other farmers. We will encourage our colleagues to see to the success of this particular program.
This thing changed my mindset because I only saw the portal on my phone. I checked the portal, I now filled the form. Later, they now called to me. So they have even credited my account with the money, with the check they gave me today. So I have like 2 acres of land, so I'm going to go into agric fully.
The Ogun State Anchor Borrowers program is a continuous job-creating exercise that will engage youths and make them self-reliant.
Extreme precautionary measures and effective personal hygiene by workers are not only necessary impetus for healthy living, but will also contribute maximally to higher rate of productivity while discharging their duties. Ogun State Head of Service Town Planner Amokbe Choko stated this in an interview with Ogtv News while reacting to the resumption of about 30% of workers in the state. Peter Falomo has more in this package.
The coronavirus lockdown pronounced on the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, Lagos and Ogun States by President Muhammadu Buhari was partially relaxed during his recent nationwide broadcast on Monday, 27th April 2020. Although the window of gradual relaxation begins in Abuja and Lagos states on 4th of May, Ogun State continues with lockdown, but relaxed on Monday, Wednesday and Friday this week to be able to account for late takeoff at the beginning of the lockdown on 30th of March 2020. During the broadcast, the residents were not only given gradual relaxation, 30% of workforce in the state are equally allowed to resume for duties. To this end, Ogun State Head of Service, Town Planner Amokbe Choko, speaks on the modalities of the state's workers' resumption.
And as they resume office, we expect that we'll still be cautious of our health. We have been told that personal hygiene is the most important thing that we should observe in this critical time of the coronavirus pandemic, so by ensuring that washing of hands regularly, using of sanitizers where water is not available, and in our various offices, as we resume, we expect to use a face mask which will be provided to each of the staff, as well as sanitizers in the various offices. Our offices had been fumigated during the weekend. So I want our officers to maintain high level of hygiene and they should make sure that they take care of themselves.
Town Planner Choko also made analysis of the categories of workers expected at work with a charge to be more committed towards improving the economic indices of the states.
Now that we are resuming gradually, we need to do all that is within our power to ensure that Ogun State's economy begins to boom, and that we expect a serious commitment from our workers and those who will still have to stay at home, because we are not expected to be here every day. We expect that you should be productive, make good use of your time while at home, and ensure basically that our safety is very important and critical to the end of this pandemic.
She eulogized the efforts of the Prince Dapo Abiodun-led administration for improving the status of the entire workforce in the state. Peter Falomo, Ogtv News.
Ogun State government has commended IHS Towers, a telecom infrastructure provider in sub-Saharan Africa, for identifying with the Prince Dapo Abiodun-led administration in providing food bags to 9,000 vulnerable homes as part of measures to cushion the effects of the lockdown occasioned by the dreaded COVID-19 pandemic ravaging the world. Receiving the food palliatives, which was done in collaboration with Nigeria Red Cross Society, Ogun State branch in Abeokuta, Secretary to Ogun State Government, Mr. Tokunbo Talabi, represented by the State Commissioner for Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs, Barrister Femi Ogubanwo, maintained that the present administration on the state was indeed appreciative of the support and contributions of corporate bodies, religious organizations, and public-spirited individuals towards making life bearable for the people of the state at this trying period in global history.
And thank other companies too and individuals of good intention who have been supporting us. And we are still appealing for more support from people because we don't know how long this lockdown will take. And it's a very peculiar period.
Also speaking, Special Assistant on Social Investment to the Governor, Mr. Dimeji Bello, noted that IHS has demonstrated a high level of responsibility to reach out to the vulnerable people and underprivileged in 6 local government areas of the state, adding that the gesture was one of the core values of the IHS, to preach love and show utmost concern to the plight of the people during the restriction order. Explaining the mode of distribution, Executive Branch Secretary of Nigeria Red Cross Society, Ogun State Branch, Mr. Aboyade Oluwole, who also commended IHS for the gesture at alleviating the people's suffering during the lockdown period, noted that Nigeria Red Cross would be distributing the palliatives in selected localities of Abeokuta North, Ado-Daughter, Ijebu-Ode, Yewa South, Obafemi-Owode, and Shagamu local government areas of the state. We'll take a short break now, and when we return, the news continues. Don't go away. You are welcome back. The novel coronavirus is a global pandemic that has continued to rise day by day. With the spread of the pandemic, necessary measures to contain the virus must be followed. Our reporter Yusuf Ganeo moved around Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital, to see the compliance of people during the hours of relaxation. His report.
The rise of coronavirus pandemic daily across the world remains a very critical challenge in mitigating the well-being and socio-economic development of the country. Since the emergence of the dreaded virus, necessary measures have been put in place by the government, which includes washing of hands or sanitizing with aqua sanitizer, putting on face masks, as well as keeping social and physical distance to curtail the spread of COVID-19. 1st of May this year Ogun State government made compulsory the use of face mask, which is basically to contain the transmission of the virus. Ogtv News crew, while moving around some notable areas in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital, observed that the use of face masks, both the clinic and fabrics ones, is quite encouraging.
The coronavirus is real, and anybody that has been watching it for the past 2 months now, you see that things are changing, and then follow the guidelines, and then you see that it is real. I have followed it keenly from the internet, from social media, and I discovered that, oh no, this coronavirus is real.
You don't necessarily have to touch somebody before you contact it. It is there in the air. Whether you want to believe it or not, it is there in the air. And using the nose mask will at least give you a kind of protection.
The fabric mask has given local producers another advantage to supply the much needed materials to curtail the spread of the coronavirus pandemic in the country. At the ATM stand in some commercial banks visited, the story is not the same as people flouted the order of social distancing.
It's unfortunate and it's not a good development. Take into cognizance the several media propaganda and of course these other sources that government have used in sensitizing the members of the public. I think what is important is enforcement. As far as Nigerians are concerned, we require a lot of enforcement before we can ensure compliance. And therefore, my suggestion will be that perhaps the bank authorities or governments should assign a personnel, perhaps a security personnel or an enforcement personnel at the entrance of these banks or by the gate side, so that people will be told and be persuaded.
It is expected of motorcycle riders to take one passenger as well as taxi drivers to take one passenger in front and two in the back, but they are not complying with the rules. Commandant of Trace, Sheni Ogunyemi, sounds a note of warning to the voters, adding that COVID-19 is real, urging them to follow all precautionary measures to curtail the spread of the virus.
Special operations that are on the road now. We've gotten a truck, a big truck, that's as many as Okada motorcycle, commercial motorcycle riders caught, must be impounded and must not be released until after the COVID-19 pandemic. It's just really unfortunate that people doesn't want to heed to simple instructions. It's for their own safety, and they are out now. Maybe when we go to some areas, you will see them doing the operations. We want to use this at the same time that the monitoring pillion, the premium passengers too, they are culprits. If you are caught overloading, then you'll be liable to that.
Government at all levels, particularly the Presidential Task Force, are also working tirelessly to ensure that the spread of the novel coronavirus is contained, as we all need to stay safe because COVID-19 is real. Yusuf Ganiyu, Ogtv News.
Authorities of the Federal Medical Center Idiaba, Abeokuta have assured Nigerians of their prompt medical attention to patients with dedicated medical personnel to attend to them at all times. Head of Clinical Services in the hospital, Dr. Fidelis Ojebleno, gave the assurance while speaking in an interview with Ogtv News on the recent case of coronavirus patients in the hospital.
FMC is free from COVID-19 as we are talking now. There's no COVID-19 FMC Abeokuta. The people that had it, they have been taken care of. The places where they say they have been decontaminated, and they were treated in isolation facilities, not the general space that you see every other patient coming. So we can never come across such people in FMC Abeokuta.
Dr. Ojebleno ensure they pay adequate attention to the precautionary measures as instructed by the medical experts towards containing the spread of COVID-19 pandemic.
People that have COVID-19, they don't know they have it. They are still alive, moving around. So it's not as if once you touch somebody that has COVID-19, you have it. But your best bet, protect yourself. When you are sick for whatever reason, come to FMC Abeokuta. It is meant to treat you.
He, however, advised Nigerians to ensure they make themselves available early enough for any noticeable disease. The Ogun State Traffic Compliance and Enforcement Corps, TRACE, has vowed to enforce the new transport guidelines of the government in a strategic enforcement plan aimed at curbing the spread of COVID-19 pandemic on the interstate and borderline roads. In a release by Trace Public Relations Officer, Commandant Babatunde Akinbiyi, the Commander and Chief Executive Commandant Officer, Commandant Sheni Ogunyemi, says Trace Corps would deploy the full strength of its operational apparatus in collaboration with other services on interstate routes which fall under Ogun Traffic Corridor. The routes identified include Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, the old Lagos-Ota-Ifo Abeokuta Expressway, and Shagamu-Ijebu-Ode Benin-Ore Expressway. Others are Aton, Lusada, Agbara, Badagry Highway, Rounda, Abeokuta, Olorunda, Ayetoro, Imeko, Ilara border. The statement therefore enjoined all Trace Corps area commanders, divisional commanders, and unit commanders to commence the execution of the strategic enforcement plan as directed by the state government. The Trace Corps urged the motoring public and indeed the general public to adhere strictly to the curfew imposed by the federal government from 8 in the morning till 6 in the evening of the following day. The number of patients who recovered from the coronavirus disease in Nigeria has reached 400, report says. Available information on the website of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control as of Monday shows that the patients were discharged from isolation and treatment centers in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, and 20 states. Lagos State recorded 247 recoveries, the highest by any state in the country, followed by Abuja and Osun State with 40 and 22 discharged cases respectively. Ogun, Edo, and Akwa Ibom states have discharged 10 patients each, while Oyo has reported 9 recoveries. Kaduna State has discharged 8 patients, including the state governor, Nasiru El-Rufai, while Kano State has discharged 7 patients. Following weeks of treatment, Governor Nasir El-Rufai of Kaduna State was discharged after testing negative twice for COVID-19. The NCDC data also showed that Bauchi, Katsina, and Kwara states have discharged 6 patients each, while Delta and Ondo states have recorded 4 and 3 recoveries respectively. Rivers, Ekiti, and Enugu states have 2 recoveries each, while Anambra, Abia, Niger, and Sokoto states have discharged 1 patient each. According to the data, 14 states, namely Gombe, Borno, Yobe, Kebbi, Nasarawa, Zamfara, Taraba, Jigawa, Adamawa, Bayelsa, Ebonyi, Plateau, Imo, and Benue were yet to discharge any COVID-19 patients. The Bishop of Sokoto Catholic Diocese, Matthew Kuka, has handed over a 30-room hotel to the Sokoto State Government as an isolation center for suspected coronavirus patients in the state. Announcing via Twitter on Monday afternoon, the Sokoto State Ministry of Health said Kuka acted on behalf of the Catholic Diocese in the state. The ministry also confirmed that he handed over a 15-room hospital for treatment of infected persons in the state. It also said a total of 66 cases have been confirmed in the state, while 57 are active, 8 fatalities and 1 recovery reported. Meanwhile, Governor Aminu Tambuwa has called on President Muhammadu Buhari for federal government assistance in overcoming the pandemic. He stated this in his address to the state. He stressed the ban on interstate movement, compulsory use of face mask, and the imposition of daily 8 in the evening to 6 in the morning curfew effective Monday, May 4. President Muhammadu Buhari on Monday in Abuja said only a collective international approach will mitigate the devastating effects of COVID-19, while assuring that the federal government will intensify efforts to monitor, test, and isolate more people, especially at the community level. President Buhari, who participated in a virtual summit of heads of state and government of the non-aligned movement, said national, regional, and global strategies will be required to tackle the pandemic, which is said had ravaged the well-being of people, their livelihoods, and global economy. The theme of this extraordinary summit, United Against COVID-19 Pandemic, aptly reflects the importance for a proactive approach and the need for multilateral cooperation in finding quick solutions to the challenges that COVID-19 pandemic imposes in the nation. The president told heads of state and government of the non-allied movement that the central role of the United Nations and the World Health Organization, WHO, in fighting the pandemic must be acknowledged and leveraged for the benefit of all member nations. The federal government has concluded plans to evacuate about 270 Nigerians willing to return home from the United States. This was disclosed in a statement dated May 3rd from the Consulate General of Nigeria in New York. The consulate explained that a one-way flight has been arranged for the evacuation of stranded Nigerians in the U.S. It added that the flight operated by Ethiopian Airlines with a 270 passenger capacity would evacuate travelers at their expense, and the returnees would fly economy class. According to the statement, the flight would depart for Abuja from Liberty International Airport in New Jersey, United States, and is expected to arrive at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport on Monday next week. It also revealed that over 700 citizens have registered with the Nigerian mission in the U.S. to be evacuated, but only 270 people will be accommodated. The consulate stressed that applications to be evacuated will be considered on a first-come, first-served basis, while the list of evacuees will be treated according to their immigration status. It said those who have proofs of short-stay visas, the elderly, families with children, and returning students would also be given special attention. The Federal High Court in Abuja has imposed the wearing of face masks as a condition for entering its premises. A bold inscription of "No mask, no entry, COVID-19 is real" has been pasted at the gates of the headquarters of the court in Abuja. The notice was also seen on a notice board inside the court building. In addition to the directive for the use of face masks, 2 hand-washing spots have been mounted on the premises. An official in a white laboratory coat also stood on the staircase using a non-contact tool to test visitors' temperature. The measures are put in place to curb the spread of COVID-19 following the easing of the lockdown imposed by the federal government. The Nasarawa state government has commenced the first batch of repatriation of Amajuris in the state to their states of origin. State Governor Abdullahi Sule, who joined stakeholders at the Government Science School in Lafia, the state capital, to bid the children farewell, revealed that none of the returning children showed any symptom of COVID-19. Governor Sule explained that the return, which was agreed upon by the Northern Governors Forum, is to ensure adequate parental care during the pandemic. The Amajuris will be returned to Taraba, Plateau, Jigawa, Gombe, and Kaduna states. Some of the children who spoke in their dialect expressed appreciation to the Nasarawa state government for returning them in dignity. Food was provided for younger ones among them who were not fasting, with stipends provided to buy their urgent needs. Jigawa State has recorded its second death from the COVID-19 pandemic. The patient, who is a pregnant woman from Zareka Ward in the Miga local government area of the state, died as a result of miscarriage at the isolation center. A member of the state task force who confirmed the news disclosed that the woman who bled to death on Sunday as a result of miscarriage she had while being isolated at a facility in Duse, the state capital. One of the members of the patient's family, who also confirmed her death, said that they have received the body from the officials of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, and has since buried her according to Islamic rites in the village. The patient was among the 9 cases confirmed by the Commissioner for Health in Jigawa and Chairman of the State Task Force, Dr. Abba Zakari. She was said to be returning from Lagos to Jigawa but tested positive for COVID-19 upon her arrival in Kano State after her status was discovered, the patient was later transferred to the isolation center in Dutse, the Jigawa state capital. The 9th was a case transferred from Kano, while Jigawa has 7 active cases and 2 deaths. United Nations Population Fund has said it would ensure women's and girls' choices and rights to sexual reproductive health were respected regardless of their COVID-19 status. Dr. Sabrina Pestilli, Reproductive Maternal Health Advisor, UNFPA, who said this in a statement, had projected that there could be about 7 million unwanted pregnancies globally from the ongoing lockdown. Dr. Pestilli said there was a need to prioritize health programs to respond to the infectious disease outbreak, which had impacted sexual and reproductive health services. She said that UNFPA would work in synergy with the Ministry of Health to strengthen, fund, implement, and integrate gender and sexual reproductive health into COVID-19 preparedness and response. On this day in 1979, Margaret Thatcher became Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, beginning an 11-year ascendancy that changed the face of Britain. Nicknamed the Iron Lady, Mrs. Thatcher has an uncompromising politics and leadership style. She was the longest-serving Prime Minister of the 28th century and the first woman to hold that office. Shemilore Amore has more.
Margaret Hilda Thatcher thrust Britain to the center of international politics when she became Europe's first woman Prime Minister and the only British Prime Minister in the 20th century to win 3 consecutive terms.
Where there is discord, may we bring harmony. Where there is error, may we bring truth. Where there is doubt, may we bring faith. And where there is despair, may we bring hope.
After a landslide election victory in 1979, she pushed through a deflationary economic program of monetary control and tax cuts. A passionate libertarian, Mrs. Thatcher made it a mission to privatize state-owned industries and public services. She sold off public housing to tenants and cut spending on social services like healthcare, education and housing.
Yes, people like you will try to go on, and the moment we say one thing, you'll find another, and then another.
Well,
one moment.
The viewer might be interested, Prime Minister.
And then another. But you see, a Chancellor of the Exchequer has to govern according to the circumstances, and no responsible minister would constrain him. No responsible minister.
The one you didn't mention in was books and magazines. Does that mean that they're the ones that might try?
No, you're going. Yes, and that's exactly a typical question.
I'm sorry.
Yes, but you.
But
simply,
people might be interested, Prime Minister, in this.
Well, let me say to people, I have undertaken not to do it on food.
In 1985, she was refused an honorary degree from Oxford University because of her education cuts. Mrs. Thatcher also gained notoriety over plans to close 20 coal pits in 1984, which led to a year-long miners' strike that effectively brought Britain to a standstill. Her popularity in her first year in office waned amid recession and rising unemployment until victory in 1982 Falkland War, and the recovering economy brought a resurgence of support, resulting in a landslide re-election in 1983. She survived an assassination attempt by Provisional IRA in 1984 and achieved political victory against the National Union of Mine Workers.
She was in bed and all the windows went and the bathroom was extremely badly damaged.
your own room?
Yes,
In your room?
Yes,
I think that's enough,
we were very lucky.
Thatcher was re-elected for a third term with another landslide in 1987. She resigned as Prime Minister and party leader in November 1990.
It's been a tremendous privilege to serve this country as Prime Minister. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thatcher died on 8 April 2013 after suffering a stroke. She received a ceremonial funeral, including full military honors with a church service at St. Paul's Cathedral. Shemilore Amore, Ogtv News.
A former Special Duties Minister, Kabiru Tanimu Turaki, was arraigned on Monday with 3 others before a federal high court in Abuja on fraud-related charges. Turaki, a senior advocate of Nigeria, served as the Minister for Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs from 2013 to 2015 and Supervising Minister for Labor from 2014 to 2015. EFCC alleged that Turaki used the 2 companies belonging to his aid to illegally siphon funds. The federal government has confirmed the receipt of $311 million looted by the late military dictator, General Sani Abacha. The loot was repatriated from the United States and the bailiwick of Jersey. According to Malami, the amount increased significantly from over $308 million as stated in a press release in February to over $311 million because of the interest that accrued from February 3rd, 2020 to 28th April 2020 when the fund was transferred to the Central Bank of Nigeria. The Federal High Court in Lagos has awarded 1 million naira against the federal government over the police disruption of the August 5, 2019 Revolutionnow protest. The court awarded the 1 million naira in favor of Lagos-based lawyer Olukoya Ogungbeje, who said he participated in the Revolutionnow protest and was among those tear-gassed by security agents. The nationwide protest was convened by the publisher of Sahara Reports, Omoyele Sowore, who was arrested by the Department of State Services on August 3rd. The court, in a judgment by Justice Maureen Oyeteno, declared the disruption of the peaceful protest by the federal government through the police as illegal, oppressive, undemocratic and unconstitutional. The judge agreed with the applicants in the suit, Ogungbeje, who sued on behalf of himself and other participants in the protest, that the federal government deprived them of the right to peaceful assembly and association in violation of Section 38, 39 and 40 of the 1999 Constitution. On business segment of the news, federal government revises upward revenue projection for ministries and departments. Details when we return on business segment of the news. Thanks so much for joining us on the business segment of the news. The National Bureau of Statistics has said 40.1% of the country's population live in poverty. The NBS, in the executive summary of the 2019 Poverty and Inequality Report released on Monday, said over 82.9 million Nigerians lived below its poverty line of 137,430,000 per year. The NBS is the official survey for measuring poverty and living standards. The Bureau said between September 2018 and October 2019, it conducted the latest round of the Nigerians Living Standard Survey after 10 years. The NBS said in Nigeria, 40.1% of the total population were classified as poor. In other words, on average, 4 out of 10 individuals in Nigeria have real per capita expenditure below 137,430 per year. The federal government has revised upward the independent revenue projections for ministries, departments, and agencies in the current fiscal period by 66.9 billion naira to 916.87 billion naira. The new amount represents an increase of 7.87% over the original projections of 849.97 billion naira. The 916.87 billion naira independent revenue is contained in the revised 2020 budget proposal of 10.27 trillion naira, which has been submitted to the National Assembly. Out of the estimated revenue projections of 916.87 billion naira, about 436.94 billion naira is planned to be realized from 10 of the agencies. Crude oil price had dropped from about $67.35 per barrel in December when the budget was approved to about $26 per barrel as of Friday last week. Equity markets sustained an uptrend last week as gains from blue chip companies maintained market trading activities on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. The NSE All-Share Index and market capitalization both appreciated by 1.87% to close the week at 23,000 and 11.99 trillion naira respectively, at 23,000 and 11.997 trillion naira respectively. All other indices finished higher with the exception of the NSE Merry Growth, the NSE Consumer Goods and the NSE Industrial Goods, which depreciated by 0.88%, 1.42 and 0.47% respectively, while the NSE ASEM Index closed flat. Meanwhile, a total turnover of 1.012 billion shares worth 9.892 billion naira in 17,000 deals were traded last week by investors on the floor of the exchange, in contrast to a total of 1.195 billion naira that exchange ends the previous week in 20,591 deals. The federal government has failed to reveal the 123.5 to 125 per litre pump price of petrol for the month of May 2020, despite continued crash of crude oil price. The Petroleum Product Pricing Regulatory Agency has stated that the cost of petrol will be revealed monthly in accordance with the fluctuation of crude oil in the international market. Brent, the crude against which Nigeria's oil is priced, doubled in price repeatedly in April 2020, crashing below $20 per barrel on many occasions before picking up marginally towards the end of April. The commodity traded at $26.44 per barrel on Sunday, shedding $0.04 or 15%. That was business segment of the news. On foreign news, UK fast becoming Europe's most hit nation with COVID-19. More reports from around the world in a moment.